Ready, player one. Are you ready to play? Insert credit to play. Join the rebellion. This summer, or rather spring, from Steven Spielberg.
I think you got to work these intros with me first.
I don't know. You put me on the spot, man.
I know I put you on the spot. There's a reason I do that. Is occasionally you have to come up with this stuff on the fly. And I don't want to do it. Welcome, everybody, to our newest vlog of Ready Player One. So this is the, I want to say, most anticipated title this year because it is from Steven Spielberg. And we all know that Steven Spielberg doesn't take a whole lot of projects anymore. He's more than willing enough to fund stuff, but he's not necessarily out there creating as often.
Yeah. And when he does, he's usually just doing dramas. So
yeah,
kind of see him go back to his sci-fi-ish roots, so to speak.
I'm not even going to go sci-fi-ish. This feels like more his imaginative roots. Because in a lot of cases where you're right, like a lot of it involves sci-fi-esque experiences. It's more imagination than anything else. That's the best way that I can be able to explain it, because like throughout our lives, our childhoods, and even people who are older than us, we all have those moments of like, we remember the tune from Close Encounters. We remember the bike riding over the moon for E.T. Mm-hmm. We remember the first time we saw the T-Rex in Jurassic Park. You know, those moments from Steven Spielberg are the things that last, and that's why I say it's more imaginative, is because Spielberg always, through some way or another, tries to capture, for lack of a better term, magic on screen.
Yeah. And
a lot of people have actually speculated this might be his last one. This might be his last attempt to do that. He'll still do dramas and whatnot, but this might be his last major undertaking as a filmmaker before, he unfortunately bites the dust. At least in what coined him as the filmmaker that we all know him to be. Mm-hmm. Because as much as movies to us like Schindler's List and some of his other dramas are memorable, don't get me wrong, the stuff that always sticks out to us, the first thing that we think about with Steven Spielberg is E.T. It is Close Encounters, Jurassic Park, things like that.
Yeah.
So, I can't think of a better way to start with this one other than, what were you expecting after we started seeing trailers? I mean, we knew, you had told me that we knew that this was based on a book.
Yeah.
But what was your take when you saw like your first initial trailer of Ready Player One?
It was interesting, but kind of confusing. I couldn't really get a grasp of what this movie was. So it was sort of like, does this have something to it, or is it just going to be references to the movie? Is it just going to be like
that? I think that was a lot of people's fear.
Yeah,
is that it was basically, it was Steven Spielberg trying to be the Emoji Movie. It was Steven Spielberg trying to be Wreck-It Ralph, and nobody wanted him to go that direction.
Yeah. Yes, and the trailers, besides the references, kind of made it look like, I don't know, like your typical sort of dystopian sci-fi, mm-hmm. Ghost in the Shell, whatnot, and so that's kind of what I was more expecting out of this. And what about you?
I didn't know what to expect, in all honesty. When we saw the trailers, I went, okay, I do know that Steven Spielberg is a lover of games. He's made games, believe it or not. A lot of people may not know that. Steven Spielberg has actually made games, in particular games that he wanted to play with his family. So I know that he's a lover of that kind of thing. And I also know one other thing about Steven Spielberg. It takes a lot for him to get interested in a project. It takes a lot for him to want to actually, especially when it's adapted from a book. Okay. As much as we all want to say like he's a filmmaker, he'll take on any project. Not so much the case of Steven. Steven's at the higher echelons of directors. He can pick and choose. And when he picks something that's truly imaginative, you know that what you're going to walk into. You know that your director is going to go all out. He's going to use every possible form of technology at his disposal. So you at least knew that this could go 50-50 with the trailers. Is like, this looks amazing. This could go 50-50. This could go amazing. This could be Spielberg's greatest work yet. Or it could be a sign of the times and the fact that Spielberg's out of touch and he doesn't know how to properly use CG. I know a lot of people have made that claim with him, although I would actually say he's one of the few directors I think that uses CG properly and understands like how to get that into it. And part of the reason and why he's so acclaimed is because he doesn't just stop at CG. He actually uses live action models to be able to give us a frame of reference. Any good director learns from Steven Spielberg in that regard and actually does that.
Yeah.
The bad directors don't.
Yeah.
So in a lot of cases, when I saw the trailer, I looked at it and I went, okay, Steven Spielberg's take on video games. This could have either a drastically amazing effect on films as we know it, or it could literally crash and burn so much that it destroys his reputation. Okay. Because at that point he's just old fart who doesn't know what he's doing anymore. And you giggle, but you know I'm right. Like he's getting to a point in his age where if he does one thing wrong, I mean, we can both make this claim: AI almost destroyed him, kind of thing. And that was his homage to Kubrick, kind of thing. So it wasn't necessarily him doing him; it was him doing Kubrick. And there are some that would claim that AI almost destroyed his career out of that. That's why he went to the executive producer role for so many films.
Oh, he was in that long before AI. I wouldn't even say AI, I'm sure even he'd disagree I mean, this was very early in his career, but I think the movie. I
don't think it's like my own assessment of it is it's not a film to judge because again, it's not Spielberg being Spielberg. It's Spielberg being Kubrick.
Yeah. But, as far as Spielberg's old shames go, he'll always go back to movies like Hook or 1941. I don't get it because I think those are great movies, but
I'd agree with him on Hook. But
oh, come on, you just hate it because your little brother played it so much.
No, I also just don't like Hook.
It's a great movie. You don't know what you're talking about.
Sure. Anyway, so that's kind of the expectations walking into this. Let's give kind of our verdict right off the bat. Okay. Walking out, good, bad, where was it?
Good, actually. Really good movie, I thought. Liked it better than I thought it would.
I'm gonna lean in the good bracket, but I'm not gonna say that this film doesn't have its flaws. Okay, and before people immediately start getting ready to write in the comments, hear my opinion out before you lambast me in the comments section. Okay?
Then lambast him in the comments section.
Well, maybe you won't want to. Okay. I'm gonna go with good, but there were some things that I think were ultimately flawed about it. Let's get into it. So the good stuff that you want to applaud from Ready Player One.
Well, like I said, the thing I was a little nervous about going in is this just going to be references the movie? It's like how many pop culture references, and there were lots. There's a lot, of course, but in between all the references, there is a story there. There is a substance, and I've not read the book at all, but I've heard some people who have read the book remark that the book isn't particularly well written either. It's got some really like cheesy passages or something like that. I don't know.
Okay.
But I think Spielberg, whatever the book's faults may be, the movie does a pretty good job on its own. Spielberg kind of pulls it together from the writer's room to the screen. And
from what I understand, he didn't follow the book to the letter. He took some Hollywood liberties.
Yeah, like any movie will generally do. So there is a story there. There's a story about sort of what it means to live in the virtual world. I wouldn't say it's a heavy-handed Aesop here, but there's a little bit of that. There's a bit of finding, classic Hollywood, finding true love kind of story there.
Okay.
There is the story of
buried treasures to be had.
Yes, there's the adventure, there's the quest. So in a sense, it's like a lot of the famous 80s films that Spielberg lent his hand to, like The Goonies and that. It's a treasure hunt. It's
indie to some extent.
Yeah, indie, which is all his. But so it's a treasure hunt. It's a quest, and it's a fun ride at that. That there's a lot to it. There's some pretty good, interesting characters. There's a lot of good chemistry between our two leads, between the characters Artemis and Z. Parzival, or just Z as he's called. There's some good chemistry there, so decent acting across the board. Pretty good visual effects across the board, I think. And I think those are my the first wave of positives I can think of off the top of my head. Okay.
So other positive, like you don't want to go down the practical route or at all?
Well, it's hard to know what's practical in CG these days. I mean, good grief, the lines get so blurred so easily at times that what you may think is a CG.
Well, I'm saying you're not gonna compliment cinematography or anything like that.
Oh well, I've never been a big fan of Spielberg's current photographer, who he's had for like the last 2 decades, Janusz Kaminski. I've always found his photographing really, like, I don't know, dreary, kind of dry. Mm-hmm. Visually, I always felt like Kaminski kind of lacks a lot in his photography.
Can you give an example for that?
Jeez. A lot of it is Crystal Skull. I don't like the way he shot Crystal Skull. Okay. It never looked right to me, especially when you compare to other indie films, other times when Spielberg's worked under different DPs like Dean Cundey. God, whatever happened to him, I don't know. Poor guy. So the photography's okay. I mean, it's kind of what I expect out of Kaminski at this point, and Spielberg's go-to photographer. The editing's a little rapid pace, but I could keep up fine.
Okay. Actor performances, anything like that?
Yeah, like I said, there's good chemistry between the leads, between our main male and female, and of course the other characters that are also part of the clan.
Daito, Sho,
yeah,
Nolan, I'm gonna throw in Halliday and Og. I think is Ogden Strumwell or whatever his last name was. What was the guy's name? Nolan something.
Nolan Bush?
No, that's what I want to say.
God damn it.
It's Nolan something, but yeah, the lead of IOI.
Yeah, he was pretty good too. I mean, there was a few times I swear he looked like the late Brendan Gleeson from The Breakfast Club. I knew it wasn't him because I
think that's pretty much who he was trying to play.
Yeah, I know it's not him because that actor's been dead for like 5 or 10 years now. But
yeah, but that's the role that he was playing.
I think that's.
In fact, I don't know about you, but I kind of giggled when they started making John Hughes references. I'm like, yeah, that's. Now I know how to picture you. Now I know what you're supposed to be.
Yeah, I definitely think that's what they're going for, given there's a lot
I think that's literally what Spielberg told him to do. It's just like, okay, you know the principal from The Breakfast Club? That's you. Except you're CEO of a or like a conglomerate company. Kind of thing. And by the way, I'm thoroughly convinced, at least for a month, James Cameron stepped in and rewrote a few things. Because, I mean, I was joking with you in the theater, there are some Cameronisms in this right off the bat.
Yeah, I think, again, that just comes from the movie does have a firmly kind of 80s vibe to it. Yeah. I mean, part of that's, we're very nostalgic for 80s right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Spielberg has never had like an evil corporation kind of thing. And I'm not going to count the Jurassic Park movies because, that's one example, because I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't work on Lost World. He didn't work on 3.
No, he did Lost World.
He did Lost World? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but again, okay, so that's one example, but Close Encounters didn't have that.
No.
E.T. had what? The FBI?
Unnamed government spooks, really.
Area 51, basically. So at that point, like, this is not an ism that I would associate with Steven Spielberg. This is an ism I would associate with Cameron.
Maybe AI? I don't know. It's a very evil corporation's a very sci-fi trope, so
yeah, but one that I just don't think he's used.
I mean, to a lesser extent.
I mean, the only consistent one that I can think of off the top of my head is the Nazis from Indy. Like the Nazis showed up, not consistently, but they showed up a lot.
I mean, to a lesser extent, there's Poltergeist, which is crooked real estate development.
Okay, all right. I'll give you
Like I
that.
said, lesser extent because that is technically Toby Hooper's. There's a lot of back and forth as to who was really in the director's chair.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is like IOI is basically painted as Cyberdyne. It's basically painted as Weyland Yutani.
Yeah.
You know, those kind or crap, what's the RoboCop one? Crap.
I don't know.
I can't remember it off the top of my head, but like, you know, those kinds of organizations. And to me, that's a Cameronism. It's literally something that I think of and I go, James Cameron. James Cameron does it all the time.
Yeah, but like it's not exclusive to Cameron. Like I said, it's
No, it's not.
It's a very
Because technically, you could make the argument that Ridley Scott created Weyland Yutani. It's just Cameron made it more evil.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, evil corporations. It's like very much a stock sci-fi trope, especially of 80s. Especially of 80s, man. It's like I said, this is a very 80s vibe kind of feel to it. So that's a very stock trope of a lot of old sci-fi films like this.
I'm also going to say this, and I don't know if you're going to get happy or mad at me for saying this, but there were a lot of .hack-isms in this. I don't think they're inspired by .hack, but
I think it's
literally looked at them and went, that's .hack.
Yeah.
That's freaking .hack.
I can see
most of the stuff associated with Halliday is .hack.
Yeah, I can see that.
In fact, I'm thoroughly convinced at the very end, and again, we do spoilers on this show if you don't know.
Yeah.
I'm thoroughly convinced that the last little hint that he said, you know, where are you? Are you really alive? I honestly think that they were hinting at, oh yeah, he downloaded his consciousness. He's part of the Oasis now.
Oh yeah, I feel that way too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you know, I can't disagree. I mean, it is probably unintentional. It's probably just us connecting the dots there. There's a little bit of that too, and again, that's playing off a lot of.
Basically, this is going to be what Outlaw Star is to Joss Whedon now.
Probably.
Yeah, it's like you can't, you didn't reference it, but now you can't escape it. What is the name of the old guy? Like I was literally trying to think of him in .hack sign.
Harold Horwick.
Harold Horwick.
Yeah.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
Halliday, Harold, yeah, it works. Okay.
And you know, they got the same kind of, I mean, it's commonplace now, but because we got VR sets, but they have the, those virtual glasses sets those goggles they wear, which were a big thing kind of done way back in .hack long before we had like Oculus Rift and whatnot. So,
well, you had 80s movies that were trying to make it work and it didn't work.
Yeah. So I could see where you're coming from. I can't hate it or disagree. Yeah. No, I even got, God, you know how much I hate Sword Art Online, but even I could get a little Sword Art Online vibes out of it. And I'm
but that's a different thing because they, you don't actually have to have like this much space allocated so you don't like jump on the couch.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think with SAO, those things are like giant, like freaking things. So different topic.
They're portable, like the one the CEO had. But yeah, see, guys, I know my SAO.
We know it
before you get mad at me. I know my SAO.
He knows his animus.
I knew my enemies.
Animes.
He's like from those Japanese animes I watch. Seriously, we need to get you to play Metal Gear Solid. You're going to laugh. And it needs to be the original PlayStation version because you need to hear that craptastic dub. Anyway, because I love the actors, but man, the director that was running them did not know what he was talking about.
Okay.
I believe there's actually a point where the guy tries to say... a guy tries to say otaku and he says otaku. So otaku, that hence why we got the term otakon. And it's like, oh, that's how it's supposed to split otaku. And no. Anyway, so other positives before I get into mine.
I've ran through mine. Go ahead with yours.
For as much as people think that the reference fest is going to be my positive, it actually isn't. So I'm just going to prepare people right here and now. It's not. In fact, when I get there, references probably were more distracting in this film than they were awesome kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, there are some awesome moments for crying out loud, like the Iron Giant, a Gundam gets summoned. I'm sure I'm going to hear this in the comment section. Like, how could you not like the references to freaking Gundam? Well, first of all, not my favorite Gundam, so shut up. But yeah, the references to me were a little bit more distracting than anything else. What I would actually say are positives are this is going to be really hard to sell, but the outside world was a really good sell here.
Yeah.
Because look, I actually hate the ism of like when sci-fi movies or futuristic movies either have to go the ultra optimistic like Star Trek, or they have to go the ultra cynical, like say Alien kind of thing. I'm trying to think of a better example.
Alien's not a good example.
Alien's
really.
not a good example because you don't see too much of the corporations. Like an ultra bad example, a cynical future. Oh,
You're talking just like dystopian
kind of thing. Yeah. So like
maybe
Matrix.
Maybe more like Evangelion.
Well, I want to think of like actual film examples here. So like anime examples have tons of dystopians, and I could easily quote those.
Yeah.
But like for a film example, Matrix would be one because it's dystopian in the fact that we're all being farmed by machines.
Yeah.
In fact, I was not going to be surprised if that came into play at some point here. And then I'd be like, oh my gosh, Steven Spielberg's trying to do the Matrix. I almost expected there to be like that moment, like you realize that you're just a battery and Lawrence Fishburne is here to give you the red pill and we can move on kind of thing. But I liked the dystopian kind of the stacks, the shanty towns. I liked how that was painted to give a motivation for this entire human world to want to escape it into the oasis.
Yeah.
Okay. Because here's the thing.
So you like it both from a concept and a storytelling perspective?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, and here's the main reason. And I'm going to criticize .hack, and so prepare for this.
Okay.
In .hack, and in SAL, they make it so that this virtual world you want to go to escape from the pains of reality. Mm-hmm. But then you step out and you go, oh, they have everyday lives. Wow, boo-hoo, how painful, kind of thing. This one actually gave a legit motivation of like, the world outside is absolute sheer hell.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in it, kind of thing. And therefore, now it makes sense for everybody, including mom, pop, kids, all of them, to want to leave that world and to go into the oasis. Kind of thing. So I like how that was painted. And here's the thing, even though like you and I are going to kind of disagree on this one, because I don't think it was Kaczynski that was doing a lot of the, what I want to call the digital work here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So I think there were legit shots that, yes, he was probably part of, because he is, you're right. He's the go-to guy. But I think in all honesty, this might have been a project where Spielberg said, okay, you're for practical stuff, and I'm going to hire another guy for digital stuff. Because it felt like with the digital, like whenever they were doing shots of the stacks or shots of the Oasis, it was a different guy. Because these are not the same kind of setups that you would get used to with Kaczynski.
Yeah.
So I would almost wonder if like a second guy was brought in to be like the digital cinematographer. And I liked a lot of those shots. I liked to see how high the stacks could go and being able to see just the bleakness of current day reality. Okay, that actually sets a really good scene here. The other thing that I will admit that I do like is I agree with you. The story was amazing. The story was basically, for lack of a better term, Indiana Jones, but with sci-fi elements. Not Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
I'm talking like with like the way I know how to explain it is like if young Indiana Jones were a video game player and he was trying to find, the Ark of the Covenant within a game.
See, I wouldn't even go Indiana Jones. I feel more like Goonies or something like
something to that extent. Yes, that's basically what I'm trying to explain, like a basic adventure kind of plot.
Yeah,
and it's been so long since not just Spielberg, but a lot of other filmmakers have just done that basic adventure story. Okay. They always have to tie it into something else. In some cases, it's reference fest because we have to make all the jokes that every adventure movie might possibly make. But in other cases, you have to tie it into another particular genre, like horror. A lot of the time, like the adventure stuff starts up and then it becomes a horror fest right after, because what you found you weren't supposed to find. This one, I liked that it was, this is going to be a really bad example, but it feels like E.T. to me.
Yeah.
It feels like E.T., but a modern day.
Guys, sidetrack you for a second. Did you ever see Super 8 from J.J. Abrams? Because I never saw it, but I know.
You mean the initial one? No.
Yeah, I never saw it either, and I know it was very much in that vein of those kind of 80s kids adventure movies like Goonies and that. So I just wanted.
Then
to know.
It wasn't the original one. The original one was the found footage one.
I don't know. I don't remember.
I don't think I've seen that one either, but
Yeah.
no, I was thinking you were talking about like the first monster flick he did, which was like found footage stuff, and everybody thought it was Godzilla.
Oh, that's Cloverfield, aren't you?
There you go.
That's not J.J. Abrams. That's a different movie.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
No, I didn't see Super 8.
Okay, I didn't either, and I just wanted to know if you were going with that when you were talking about adventure movies that kind of lose focus in its plot.
I wouldn't be able to tell you on that particular one.
So continue.
Anyway, so it feels like the plot feels as basic as E.T. in some weird way, but then when you add depth to it, it only adds flavor to the plot. So like where I say things are as simple as possible, you're looking for a treasure. Oh, you found the key. Here's where we're going to add depth, because we're going to add the riddle, and we're going to add in this other guy, Halliday, and all of the stuff about his life and the fact that everybody loves him and he's so beloved and blah, 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 blah. That's what I'm saying is like you took this basic plot line that Spielberg has done who knows how many times, and you just add flavor to that tree and it works.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Whereas in most modern day cases, you add too much and then it becomes way too rich and you can't digest it all, or you add too little and it's just like, really? This is all you did? Kind of thing.
Any examples?
Of those kinds of cases happening?
Yeah.
I would dare say Transformers has started to become very much a too rich to be able to handle kind of plot, where you're throwing way too much CG in there, you're throwing way too much stuff, and not going into the original kind of plot that made Transformers as cool as it was.
Yeah.
Too little. That's a harder one. I'm gonna go with the original, the Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider felt like there was too little added.
The new one.
The new one, yeah.
Okay.
The more I think about it, there's just too little added to the flavor of Lara Croft and what she's going through than actually, and it actually detracts from the original flavor, kind of thing. I know I'm going for food, but there's a reason I'm going down that direction, people. So I will actually say the digital cinematography was bar none some of the best shots I've seen in films in a long time. And most of the time that when it got really, really good, it wasn't when battles were going on. It was when they were setting the scene of the dreaded Fortress of Halliday or on Planet Doom, or you're just going to random new planet, the Casino Planet. That looked really cool. Yeah. And the way that I was actually planned out. That's why I'm saying I don't think that was Kaczynski. I think they brought in another guy, and he was solely in charge of all the digital landscapes. And so that's what made the Oasis a lot cooler. So that's pretty much like, and I also agree with you on the actors. The chemistry between them was actually a lot better than most films I've seen in a while. Most films that we've seen either this year or last year, you have that one guy. You have that one guy who just has no chemistry with anybody else. And that didn't happen here. The CEO had really good chemistry with the, is it TJ Miller? Is that his name? The bartender from Deadpool? Because that was the guy that was the skull.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's the same voice. Okay. So like he had good chemistry. Nolan and Wade had really good chemistry when they were on camera together. All of the High Five crew had really good chemistry together, even though like you could very much tell that they were all after their own agendas, but at the same time they could come together and help each other as friends. I like that idea. So a lot of the interactions in Ready Player One is probably some of the best actor chemistry and dialogue that I've seen in a while, kind of thing. And I mean that from the angle of there was not one actor that I hated their performance. Okay? Yeah. I felt like everybody was a perfect little cog that fit into the machine. Yeah. Not just that one outlier is like, I'm going to dread when this guy's performance comes up again, kind of thing. And that was actually, I was worried that the TJ Miller character, I think that's his name, TJ Miller's character was going to be that. Because he like, it was going to feel like, oh, Jack Black could play this guy.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I think that really worked well. But I think we've shouted enough of this film's praises. What did bother us about Ready Player One?
What? A little disappointed there was no E.T. Atari.
There was.
There was? Where?
Did you watch the whiteboard?
No.
It was crossed out.
Oh. Yeah, I wanted a little more than that.
Sure, but I mean,
come on.
I'm not sure Spielberg wants to reference that. Spielberg knows how bad it did. I don't think he wants to reference it. And for all we know, he played it. He probably didn't like it.
Yeah, he probably did.
So, that was one thing I noticed was all of the games, and I did see E.T. in there. Another one that I saw was crossed off that made me laugh my butt off was Sword Quest, but it was literally listed 3 times. So you had all 3 Sword Quest games. And if people have watched the Angry Video Game Nerd episode, that's an awesome tale in the Atari tellings. I think Donkey Kong was also crossed off, as well as Pac-Man in that list. So, okay, other negatives there. So you wanted E.T. to be like a reference.
Yeah, that's a tiny little thing. I wouldn't call that even a negativity.
And truth be told, it is kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Because Spielberg could reference himself here, and he really didn't.
Yeah, he really didn't. I think I saw one glimpse of Indiana Jones. I didn't see any E.T.
See, in a lot of, I think the one that you're talking about was so far away that you could have easily said, this could be Indy, this could be Pillfall Harry. We don't know.
Yeah. But you go ahead with your negatives.
This is where I said, guys, don't write in the comments just yet. Hear me out first. Almost any shot in the company with what were they called? The Sixers?
The Sixers, yeah.
Was dumb. Guys, just because we're in a virtual game does not mean I have to see what's on the other side of the connection, okay? I don't have to see dudes randomly flailing about. Sure, you can create some silly moments like the mom on the couch and the kid screaming at her or stuff like that. You can get those, but when you're trying to take it way too seriously, I'm immediately going, ugh. And one example I'll give you guys was the race, okay, where you see like lines upon lines of pods and the Sixers all going in, step into the car, boom, shut the door, boom. That was so dumb. I don't need to see that you're all doing that in real life. You don't have to edit that in. I can see that it's happening in the game. I know that it's happening, kind of thing. And all of those moments looked silly. In fact, most of the times in that room were silly as fuck. Okay. The only times when I would actually say that they weren't was it was actually kind of cool. There were a couple of shots where they showed, what was it? Artemis. Mm-hmm. Artemis is in the middle. She's doing something completely different from everybody else, kind of thing. Or another example, the guy who was playing Adventure, and all like you see people dying all around him. Yeah. And he's just like, that was pretty cool for cinematography. The rest of the time, most of the shots look dumb as crap. The shots where look, guys, we know a war is being fought. I don't need to see people out in the random streets doing roundhouse kicks and making fools of themselves with VR headsets on. That was the dumbest thing, and it didn't help to make it more badass. I actually feel like it took away from the war. I know what the cinematographer was trying to do and show like everybody's fighting this war.
That's a directorial choice. Or
okay, then Steven, I get what you were trying to do. I get what you were trying to portray. You made it look like they're a bunch of dunces. Okay? Especially when you have the jarring thing of, we know this is not your real living body. You're Leonardo, the new Ninja Turtle. And by the way, fuck you for bringing in those new fucking Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, fuck that.
Did you find all 4 of them? I found 2.
I saw one. I didn't see
I saw Donnie, I saw Leo, and I thought I saw Raph. But when I looked at it again, I'm like, no, that's purple. So, but it's like, if you're going to reference something, reference the other damn turtles. Because that just... Okay, so that's negative number one. Like the VR moments, I don't need to. This is why in a lot of cases I will never do VR, people. I know how silly I'll look doing it. Okay. Point number two. The references were not a little, they were pretty distracting from the plot. And here's one of the ways that I know it was distracting. Okay. It's very clear the companies that thought this was an amazing thing and wanted to help you out with it. Okay. Most of them, American video game companies. All right. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm fine with that. But then when occasionally you throw in, I don't know, there was a Konami reference in there somewhere where I thought I might have seen like a Simon Belmont or something like that. And I'm like, oh, then why am I not seeing Snake on the battlefield? Kind of thing. Like, it's very clear you paid Konami for this. Another thing that I will get mad at is that specific characters from those American companies were highlighted above all else. I like Tracer from Overwatch. I wanted to see Reaper. I wanted to see a number of other Overwatch characters, and you were only showing me that. I can at least understand when they show me a whole squadron of Master Chiefs, because guess what? Every 12-year-old boy wants to be the Master Chief. Okay. I get that whole concept, but the references just made me kind of sit there and want other references. Hence why, to me, it's distracting. I know that that's not going to sit well with a lot of people, but that's literally how I looked at it. Every time I saw a Tracer reference, a Ninja Turtles reference, Iron Giant, well, not Iron Giant wasn't that big of a problem, but you get what I mean. Like, you get those references and all of a sudden it's like, okay, well then I want to see this one. Oh, I'm not going to see it because it's not contracted. That's a little distracting from the plot. And it also, in my opinion, was utilized to kind of mask the holes that eventually formed within the plot. And maybe that was for the better. I'm still up in the air about that one, but
like what?
Like in particular, the way to find the keys are like, I'm trying to think of what the biggest obstacle in the race was. King Kong, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So King Kong, nobody ever could get past him. And I know that one of the reasons when you look at the race backwards, like one of the reasons you can't get past him is, yes, he destroyed the road, but it's freaking King Kong. Nobody wants to get past Kong. So at that point, when you go through the race backwards, having him just go through there and go, blah, I'm like, this is Steven Spielberg making fun of Universal theme park, isn't it? But that's literally how it feels. It's like he doesn't like the King Kong ride. He's making fun of it now. That's literally what I took out of it. I'm trying to think of other like references that I can give you guys that were distracting to me. Another one I can give you is Nolan's Avatar, which was dumb, by the way. Evil Superman. Yeah, I've never seen that one before. Yeah, dude, it was Superman.
It's like Bizarro Superman, wasn't it? Or something.
No, it was like Super Dick Prime, Superboy. It was like, because he had the broad jaw and all that stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy. Like, I get what they were trying to do with it, is like he's so full of himself, but oh, good Lord, it was so bad. I especially, I at least want to give a hand to the main avatars being, as sleek as they were, because when you had to look at that stupid Superman avatar every time he logged into the world, you just got mad. And you guys can see kind of what I mean.
It sounded like you had a problem with Mechagodzilla when that showed up.
Actually, strangely enough, Mechagodzilla versus the Gundam, I didn't have a problem with.
That was fun.
I was fine with that one.
They even had the music cue from Godzilla.
But the parts where I got mad at is like, okay, I get Overwatch, but I don't get Warcraft. I get Overwatch, but I don't get, or I get StarCraft, but I don't get Diablo. Kind of thing. Because I did see the Jim Raynor reference in there, by the way, if you guys didn't see it. And those, that's the problem, is all the references left me wanting more. And now I'm starting to see the ultimate flaw of a reference fest, is you want more.
Not me. I'm glad they didn't go too much over. It's just,
I honestly feel like they already did go over, because we didn't need so many references to so many other games in this movie, when in reality, like, most of the characters that we're supposed to be following are supposed to be stepping out of the formulas, kind of thing. So it actually kind of helped to not like perfect example in the war. I want to see what Sho and Daito and H are doing. And there's so much crap going on around them. And yes, I get it. It's a war, but I want to see what they're doing that makes them a step above everybody else. They're supposed to be a step above everybody else right now. They're the only ones that have high scores on this whole hunt for the keys. They're supposed to be standing out from everybody else. Now, with Wade, that wasn't a problem. He was the guy out there riding the frickin' DeLorean and shooting bazookas everywhere. He's going to stand out. Artemis didn't have a problem either because all you had to do was look for the 1/6er outfit that looked straight out of Tron, by the way. The Sixers in the Oasis just looked like they were from frickin' Tron.
Yeah.
All you had to do was look for Artemis in the Sixer uniform. Okay. Mm-hmm. H, not that hard to find. They gave him a distinctive model. He was the Iron Giant. Sho, not so much. He is literally being surrounded everywhere by ninjas and Ninja Turtles and everything like that. I couldn't follow the 11-year-old that's supposed to kick all kinds of ass. All right. The only time I was actually ever able to follow him was when he was singled out on screen. Okay. But I want to see this 11-year-old kick ass. Like this 11-year-old is supposed to have this notorious reputation. And even in the Planet Doom that we saw at the beginning, couldn't tell where he was. Not just because it was dark, but because he didn't have any defining characteristics like his buddy Daito, who had big frickin' ruby red armor. So you could tell where he was. And therefore you surrounded him around with a bunch of other references that I'm just, shut up, Tracer, move out of the way. I want to see what Sho's doing. You want to highlight these characters. You don't want to highlight the references. And it feels like the references were more highlighted. Okay.
Pissing off yet?
If you don't agree with me, fine, lambaste me in the comments. You have an opinion and you're entitled to it. I'm also entitled to say that I don't agree with you, or I agree with you, one of the two. Another issue that I actually do have with it is, and this is more of a nitpick, I want more Halliday. Halliday was like the one thing that I feel like tied more of this plot together, and I feel like there are too many holes in the plot line.
Like what?
For example, I wanted to see what he did after Og left him. Kind of thing. Like, did he actually slump into a depression? Like the film kind of makes you think he did.
Well, why though? It's not his story. Why do I care what he's up to?
I'm not saying I want Og. I want Halliday after he left.
No, I mean, yeah, I'm talking about that. Like, this isn't his story.
That's what I'm saying. This is a personal nitpick. I want more Halliday because Halliday, in my opinion, is probably one of the best elements of this film. And it's simply based off the concept of he's what every geek eventually becomes. Okay. Before people start screaming down my throat. It's great and all that you're the best at a game. It's great and all that you know it's great and all, Alex, that you know every bit of trivia about Madoka Magica.
Yeah.
But one of the more vicious sides to being part of a fandom is we find satisfaction in ridiculing those who know less than us. Kind of thing. It's because it's supposed to make us feel better. It's supposed to make us feel like we are the know-it-all, and therefore we are your reference point. Bow to us, kind of thing. And that, in my honest opinion, those kinds of guys can kind of destroy a fandom unless they learn to what Halliday eventually learned is you can't live your life in an echo chamber. You can't live it just surrounded by that which you are passionate about. You can't be surrounded by your fandoms. Eventually you have to step out. You have to go on a date. You have to find a friend. And when those leave and you actually do have to deal with rejection and the depression that comes from it, it doesn't make you lesser for it. It makes you stronger. It makes you better of man. In fact, one of the things that I love about this character is his duality with Wade. Mm-hmm. Okay. They are almost, and I love the reference of the flipping of the coin because they are literally two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
They've literally both grown up from nothing and both truly understand one another, except Wade is not going to make the same bad decisions Halliday did. Okay. So this is you can look at Wade as almost like Halliday's attempt at actually living a life. And that's what's cool about that character. That's why I wanted to know more, is because the sadder that you, as creepy as this sounds, sadder you went down Halliday's road, the more optimistic Wade looked.
Yeah.
In that particular perspective. And I wanted to see more of that. In fact, one of the most touching scenes in the whole deal is the scene I referenced, where it's kind of assumed that Halliday has downloaded his consciousness into the Oasis. But one of the most powerful parts of that is that Wade is crying because he knows the mistakes that Halliday has made, and he knows Halliday doesn't want him to make the same ones. Okay? That's a powerful moment. And it's actually a really great message for those who follow fandoms. Is it's great and all to be the know-it-all, but eventually you have to branch out. Mm-hmm. You have to get to know other people. You have to be able to know communities and become part of those communities, so that overall, yes, you are strengthened as an individual by being part of that, but you also strengthen the whole, because we can start getting past the whole who knows more about episode 23 of Star Trek than anybody else. Yeah. It's what actually binds us all together.
Yeah, that's
okay? I know that this is the negative section, but that's a powerful statement in here.
Yeah, I agree. That was a real good strength of the film, is that message there. And
I don't think you could have done that with a more... this is why I like the ET-esque plotline. I don't think you could have put that in a more complex plotline. If you had it as simplistic as things were, then it worked. Mm-hmm. If you had more crap or even less crap, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So that's why in a lot of cases that worked. And if people want funny, I did actually like people want to get mad at me for the Sixer scenes. I did actually appreciate all the Shining Sixer scenes. That was pretty funny.
That was good.
Just seeing like the straight line go red. That was pretty cool. That was pretty funny. But most of the time the Sixers, I wasn't this is supposed to be your serious threat. I was laughing at them. You know this. I was facepalming. You even tried to stop me from facepalming. I was facepalming because these are not threats to me. These are putties in disguise.
Putties.
Okay.
Well, you were facepalming. I only stopped you once during the whole dance scene when they were at the dance club. That's the time I stopped you from facepalming.
Oh, was it when he was going to reveal his real name?
Yeah. Or
no, it was the crotch plate. That was when I was facepalming. The crotch plate, when she went under him and they showed like how pleasured he was by that. I was like, God, people, I don't need this. I already know that he's very much turned on. I don't need to see a simulated boner through his freaking skin tight suit. Okay. I know he's got one. Anyway, so we're already like 40 minutes into this thing, so we probably better wrap it up.
Okay.
Final verdict. Where does Ready Player One stand?
It's a fun movie. Really enjoyed it. I don't have a lot of problems with it. I think you'll find it fun too, hopefully. I don't know. If this is the kind of movie I think you'd be liking, then I think you'd go see it. I'll give it an 8.5 for me.
Okay, so a solid B+.
Yeah.
There. Ultimately, this is not going to make sense to a lot of people. And it's probably not going to make sense to you. I'm going to go 9.
Wow.
9 out of 10. And
I was expecting a lot lower.
And here's the reason for it. People might remember I made a lot of claims against this film. Spielberg has a unique trait that very few filmmakers don't, or very few other filmmakers do. And that is that even your flaws can make an overall very delicious kind of movie. I know I'm using a lot of food references. Sorry.
You hungry or something?
No. It's the only way that I know how to explain it to, how to explain it not in a film class. And that's just basically that even though you have these imperfections, and yes, the references are gaudy in a lot of cases, but they're necessary in this film. If you're going to go into an online world where anybody can make their own skin, might as well make the most of it. People are going to be Tracer from Overwatch.
Yeah.
for all the flaws that I can mention out in this film, they don't hurt it to a point where my immersion is distracted from it. I can still re-immerse very quickly. Like let's just say for the sake of argument, I don't like the Sixers. Seeing them die or go, on the screen, that is distracting. But the second that we go right back into the gameplay, or I see the pissed off CEO that his guys are losing, I'm back in. I'm back in because I know what the stakes are, kind of thing. So for as many imperfections that there are in the movie, and yes, I've listed them and you guys can have your issues, but it works overall to shape the whole. And it shapes it not in a perfect way, but in a way that I think is the closest to a diamond you're going to get in an imperfect world. And that's why it gets a 9 out of 10 for me. Is that through its imperfections, it's still enjoyable. It's still, this is this generation's ET. This is this generation's Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And I'm glad that Steven Spielberg was able to do this one more time, because he probably not got another one in him. There's just so many times that Steven can tempt fate here and come out with box office gold. And, he's already tempted fate a lot. He's had some failures. Don't get us wrong. He's had some failures, but this might be the last one that he can actually pull out of his butt and make a decade defining kind of movie. And that would be Ready Player One, I think, for the 2010s. So he was able to pull it out. And I honestly can say, go, if you haven't seen those other movies, well, first of all, go see them. But you could go into Ready Player One and you could understand why we love Steven Spielberg for E.T., why we love him for Close Encounters. It's all there. This film is him out on the table. And that's all it needs to be, as imperfect as that is. Got too preachy? Got too lectury?
That's deep, man.
That's deep. That's deep, bro. All right. So yeah, I'm giving it an A. You gave it a B+. Now, how much would we recommend the people spend on Ready Player One?
Once again, I'll say worth any price of admission for you. Just how much you're willing to spend, how much you want to do. It's fun. Go see it in theaters.
Do we think 3D would be a problem? There's a lot of 3D elements here. I almost feel like some of them would get lost.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't strongly recommend 3D because it's a very visually busy kind of movie, visually busy.
And the sound is like, you'll notice audio design is not something we brought up. Okay.
Yeah.
It's not to say that the audio design is bad.
It's not,
but it's not memorable.
It's not there to capture your audio senses there.
It's there to be Atmos, competent. I'm not going to recommend Atmos either.
Yeah.
If there was really good music, then I'd recommend Atmos, but most of the music in here was referential. So, go pop in your CD and you can hear it again.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of cues from Back to the Future, and I of course recognized the Godzilla music. That was about it.
Mm-hmm. But again, you probably have those on CD and you can play them at whatever speaker setup you want to. So at that point, I'd recommend MartAnimE, because here's the thing. As good as I think this movie is, for most people, this is going to be a gamble.
Yeah.
You could either really like it or really hate it. And we're already seeing that in the reviews online, is people are kind of divided. It's like a 60-40 kind of thing, but they're divided. So sorry if I just hurt you guys' ears. I would say go see it MartAnimE. See it as cheap as you possibly can, just to make sure your money was not wasted, kind of thing. Because here's the deal. Some people are going to like this, and some people are going to say, oh my gosh, this is Steven Spielberg's take on the Emoji Movie, and I hate it. And you're well within your rights. Because, it is. I personally think it works better. So, I would say see it as cheaply as you possibly can. And, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for this review.
Okay.
So that was a lot to take in. So, and this is funny because 3 weeks straight. So we had an ultra negative one with Tomb Raider. We had an ultra positive one with Pacific Rim, and one that's kind of down in the middle with Ready Player One.
I'd say positive though.
Yeah, but I would say it's a little bit more down the middle compared to the ultras that we had.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for this review. And stay tuned for a couple of weeks where we weren't going to do it originally, but the recent trailers have motivated us to take on Rampage.
The arcade classic is now the big blockbuster movie of the spring.
Hey, Run on the Ropes fans, guess what? I'm seeing a movie with Dwayne Johnson in it. How do you feel about that?